the access to opportunity,
the access to opportunity, the access to equality. Good evening. I welcome you to the second session of Junoon JML, a season filled with new and exciting topics for discussion. Education has always been a privilege in our country. Our four speakers today are working to make it available to all. While Project Arambha is raising funds to provide college education to underprivileged girls, Project Kaleidoscope and IIT Trust are raising funds for those with autism spectrum disorder with an aim to raise awareness about it. I now request Mishita and Malak to introduce the speakers of the day.
Isha Panda, our first speaker, is a high school graduate from DPS Bangalore North. She plans to study economics at a university and become a social entrepreneur in the future. Haneen Farid, our second speaker, is also a high school graduate from DPS Bangalore North. She wishes to pursue political science and then join politics. In March 2020, they launched Project Arambha, which is a social initiative that aims to educate underprivileged college girls in India and secure their future. So far, they've raised INR 15 lakh for the education of 44 girls coming from low-income families and have also mentored over 60 girls in job skills. I would like to extend my gratitude to Disha and Hani for being here with us today.
Before we introduce the other two speakers, we would like to share a small video that throws light on the exceptional work that they have done. Project Kaleidoscope is a Bangalore-based student-run initiative that aims to raise funds for Sense Kaleidoscopes, a school for people with autism, and increase awareness about the autism spectrum disorder. They believe that every child must have the resources to reach their maximum potential, especially the underprivileged. Started by Ms. Sara Mekri and Ms. Mahima Sushant, the founding team consists of 6 students. So far, the project has raised nearly 3.5 lakh rupees. Currently, they are working on printing the artworks of the students on plates and mugs, which they will later sell to guarantee the school a sustainable source of revenue. They further hope to create visibility for the autistic community as well as engage and empower its members along the way. From Project Kaleidoscope, we have with us today Sanjana Bhupati. Akshay Shetty is the co-founder, president of a charitable organization called the Ayati Trust that ensures financial and livelihood independence to autistic people by tailoring customized cognitive and creative arts-centric programs. She's mostly intrigued about breaking the myth that the autistic cannot be trained to reach their maximum potential. She's passionate about creating more user-friendly and unique solutions, thus designing specific environments to empower people with autism in India. Today, she is the founder and director of Blue Elephant and the Sense Kaleidoscopes, both of which aim towards engaging autistic children emotionally, socially, and eventually make them employable in various art streams by creating opportunities and providing a unique solution to the problem of closing these cognitive delays which are rampant in individuals with autism in India. She is also a TEDx BMSCE speaker who was awarded the Universal Harmony International Women's Day Award in 2018 and the Lead India Power Women Award in 2021, along with the Rotary Nation Builders Award in 2021. Thank you to all the speakers for putting in so much personal effort towards the betterment of our society and for being a part of Junoon JML. I now invite Krishan Dia to begin the round of questions.
Thank you. We will now begin with our round of questions. So Haneen, what made you realize your passion for gender equality?
Hello, all right, thank you for that question. So it's actually kind of a personal story which I'll be sharing with you. For the past few years, I've had this budding interest for politics and debates, MUNs, public speaking, and the sort. So I didn't exactly get the most positive response from people when I said that this is the career field that I want to pursue. I've heard all sorts of things like politics isn't for girls, or you're too loud for a girl, and things like that, which were very disheartening, to be honest. So I just wanted to find a way to encourage other girls like me who were in a similar situation to sort of become the best versions of themselves and pursue whatever career they want to pursue. It's as simple as that. So that's my story.
Would you like to add on, Tisha?
Sure, I think we together wanted to work on gender equality in higher education because of our personal stories. And I truly believe that education is something that could really establish gender equality in the community that we live in. I personally come from a family where education is given the highest priority. We're always told to give. We've always realized that education, no matter what you do in your life, is never going to go in vain. You will have a place where you would be able to apply this, and to look at other girls not being guaranteed this only for the fact that they are a girl and they deserve to get married or are less deserving than boys to get educated. I think that's something that I did not like, and I wanted to make sure that this changes and we do something to make sure all girls are educated, and only this way we together can establish gender equality in the community. So yeah. And that's how Project Arambha began.
That's a very inspiring story. Thank you so much. I also have a question for the members of Project Kaleidoscope. Is what made you realize that you must start working to help those dealing with autism? Akshay, would you like to take? No?
Sure. I think like many who work in the social sector, my reasons for working with autism are also very personal in nature. There were reasons I really never stated very early on because as all children who grew up in my time, expressing your true self or exposing your vulnerable self was not an acceptable idea. And so also was ingrained in all of us. We were always meant to be optimally calibrated with our behaviors and expressions. Many boundaries were built and reinstated quite harshly if broken. Now, I think I'm at a place and time where I have worked extensively to break away from these thought processes. And while working with autism, if I have imbibed one single quality from them, it is to be honest and open about my feelings, even if they are vulnerable in nature. So here we go. I started working with autism because of two reasons which are interconnected. The first one is when I saw a child with autism for the first time. I remember it was at the Spastics in Bangalore. And all I saw and sensed was this perfect, beautiful child sitting in front of me. And in a split second, when he was triggered, I could see him disintegrate and have a meltdown. I was deeply hurt by the fact that something in the environment could dismantle him so badly. I completely understood that because I am an empath and whether we express or not, trust me, it takes a huge toll on us and there are hardly ways we can be compensated for it. One thing that clearly differentiated me from that child was the fact that I was a neurotypical in most ways, a coping dyslexic, and a child brought up with a definite set of coping strategies. So I kind of knew how to be quiet, even though I was feeling a storm inside me. And what really shook me was the expressions I noted on everyone. The second thing that hit me when I was watching this child having a meltdown and everybody looking at him and watching him, or everyone who was working with that child, and having a sense of dejection being painted on their faces. Obviously, I could see the parents also undergoing these emotions, which is quite understandable and evident. It was at this moment when I was drawn back to my younger years, when I remembered that dealing with dyslexia was feeling the same way. In those days, there was no way to diagnose dyslexia, and so we were considered to be these lazy and unworthy children. And it was also the time that makes a child wish that they were invisible. And slowly but surely, your wish will get granted, and over time, you will start to feel invisible. These syndromes like autism, dyslexia, dysgraphia, or any learning disabilities that we're talking about are truly invisible because all you can see with your eyes is a child with a normal face, a normal body, a normal voice, yet his or her functioning will be different. So all of this because this child has a neurodiverse brain. The perception of unworthiness associated to a child infuriates me, and quite understandably so. I think you can see why I immediately connected with autism. The idea that it is not necessary to cater to a child is making up a problem, or that a child is not worth an effort, is unthinkable to me. And here I was in a place where a society not only fostered these ideas, but also justified them. This is why I'm working with autism.
When it comes to us as students working with both the school and the students at the school, for us, when COVID hit, it hit pretty bad. And when the lockdown came in, it got worse. However, we realized that we were actually privileged to be able to stay at home in a comfortable environment and still be able to get everything we wanted to whatever extent that we could, given the situation. However, it wasn't the same for those on the spectrum. If anyone knows even a little bit about autism, you would know that routines are a huge part of it. For us as neurotypicals as well, it was very hard to break out of routines and to have to come into new ones and have to adjust to having to stay at home. Like I said, it was a lot worse for them, and it's still pretty bad for them. And knowing that we had the privilege to stay at home and still be happy and be able to handle life and not break down every minute and not have to adjust to a very large extent, made us realize that we could use this time that we had and this opportunity that we had to help those that need the help required at the point. And that's when Project Kaleidoscope started in 2020. And this is what we're at now.
Thank you, Sanjana. I think it's so good to hear that you all both stood up for a cause which is not really talked about. We'll now move on to our next question. So, Disha, what was the biggest obstacle according to you in society when we talk about gender discrimination?
Well, I think it's acceptance. just human beings having acceptance of other human beings is very rarely found these days. We have made our pre-assumed assumptions of normal or rights or wrongs in our lives, that if other people don't follow these or aren't on the same track as what we think is right or normal, we just don't accept them as the way they are. So I think in order to end discrimination of in any form, gender equality, sexual orientations, racism, anything like that, we need to accept people the way they are, respect them the way they are. And I think that will really bridge the gap that we have right now, which actually shouldn't exist. And the other thing I think is also education. Educating people would also bring across this change, this awareness that is required to kind of bridge the gap, and also respect everybody around us, regardless of their choices, their preferences, and accepting them just the way they are, is what I think is what's very important to establish gender equality in our community.
To add on to that, I completely agree with Tisha. To me, gender equality is as simple as a woman speaking without being interrupted by a man. And this is changing in today's time, but not at the pace that it's supposed to. And just an acceptance is what we require, an acceptance that what you are capable of, I am capable of too. And we've seen women prove that time and again, from Jacinda Ardern to US Representative Cortez to Indra Nooyi. All of them have, done wonders in a world where, you can't even imagine somebody reaching that level of leadership, especially a woman. And the way we can change this is actually pretty simple. Everyone on this call, just think about this for a second. What rights do you lose when others gain their rights? None, right? So that's just something we need to keep in mind for the future. Also, can we have the poll question now? I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So we've launched a poll and we request the audience to put in their answers, please. Just a few more seconds. Okay, so we've got the poll results. Haneen, would you like to talk about it?
Yeah, all right. It's kind of surprising to see the results we've gotten. There's a tie between 200 million and 100 million. The answer is actually 200 million. That's a lot of illiteracy among women. And it's an issue that we're also personally trying to tackle. Hopefully, with a few government initiatives and with a few kind donors, we'll be able to get there.
Thank you so much, Haneen. And I agree with the both of you that acceptance is what will transform the respect given to women in this country. I would like to ask my next question. What do you think is the biggest obstacle we have to overcome in order to make society a better place for those dealing with autism? Sanjana, would you like to answer that?
Sure, thank you for the question. When it comes to making society a better place for people with autism, one of the biggest problems that we've seen is that the parents themselves don't want to accept that their child might be autistic or might be on the spectrum, mainly because of the fear that's instilled in them through society about the fact that if your child has autism, then they're probably going to be shunned, they're not normal. All of those terms come up, and they shouldn't come up, which is exactly why awareness is a huge part of bringing autistic people and people with autism. That's, like I said, we're instilled to believe that we're supposed to say autistic people, it is people with autism, and how they need to understand that until and unless we educate the adults, especially those who have children, that it is all right if your child has autism as on the spectrum. It is all right if they need that extra help, because until and unless they realize that it's all right and they give them the right environment and the resources that they need, they're not going to be able to reach their maximum potential. And we're just deterring them from having the lives that they deserve to have, which is exactly what we're trying to work on. People need to be accepting of the fact that autism exists, of the fact that they do have special needs, but with that comes the immense amount of talent that they have. And I think Ms. Akshay would be able to answer this in a lot more detail because she's the one working with them in detail. So
Thank you, Sanjana. I think very simple way of putting this across. Let me start with a story. This was a few years ago when I took one of my students who was 19 years old at that point in time. Today he's 25, for a movie, and he's obsessed with movies. That's one of his OCDs. And I remember we were in this in the mall and waiting for the movie to begin. And unfortunately, it was delayed for about half an hour. There were signs put up saying that cleaning in progress, and so a lot of people were waiting outside. Now, Adarsh, my student who was with me, obviously because he's obsessed about movies, was finding it very difficult to wait his turn, and he couldn't understand why it was delayed. Now, he does not have the comprehension to understand that things can shift, things can change in India. So he kept going and wanting to check what's going on. There were a bunch of youngsters around, and they were watching him. And first, they started by looking at him very weirdly and then mocking him. And eventually, one of those dudes got up, and then he approached Adarsh and almost told him to stop doing this. It was at that time I kind of intervened. And I see this very, very commonly because most times when people approach somebody with autism, they obviously are seeing them behave in a particular manner that is not, I think, something that you are exposed to, and also to bear in mind, like I said, we have these ingrained ideas. We have been brought up with a set of values and ideas, and we are told that if somebody behaves like this, then it's not okay, right? Now, so this guy was trying to stop him. Then I walked in and I said, "Hey, this person has autism," and of course I had a chat with him and helped him understand. But then I see this so commonly. I see either extreme pity, because immediately that shifted, from disgust. We were at this place like, oh, so sad, this poor thing can't do anything. So can you see the shift that actually happened emotionally over there? And I'm really scared of this. I mean, this disgust moving to pity is something that happens so commonly with autism. And if that same person, like if somebody would have pushed with Adarsh, I know he would have lashed back, he would have hit that person. He wouldn't have cared. I know it, because essentially Adarsh is thinking, why can't you understand what I'm going through? I'm anxious. It says 9:15. Why isn't it's already 9:45 and I'm still waiting? Okay, but he can't communicate that because he has a communication impairment. And the minute he's going to hit the other person, then we are going to be in the other end of the spectrum. So this happens so commonly, and those people are then put into mental health institutions or care homes. And that is the reality of autism in India. I agree with Disha and Aneen and Sanjana. Acceptance is key, so important. But I think it's a very simplified way of putting this. The truth is that acceptance is possibly one of the most difficult behaviors to practice for all human beings. I will not say most, I'll say for all. We're so accustomed to seeing what separates us, and what is opposing as opposed to what unifies us. And I somewhere think that this is because of our educational models, and also the fact that it's regimented, it is mundane. Exploration, experimentation is not really part of the model, which is why openness and acceptance becomes impossible. Now, while acceptance is the bedrock of this widely used term inclusion, which is thrown around so nonchalantly in India, I find it almost shocking that people can even use this word in India, because to be honest, there's nothing inclusive, whether it is the way we eat, breathe, educate, enable, live. So the first thing I think we need to work on are these root philosophies that we have to start with working on many other issues, whether it is eradicating poverty, educating girls, class systems, perceptions of how corruption affects the development of a state, or even ideas of morality connected to human relationships. So these are complex conversations, guys, is what I'm trying to say. And I think for society to become a better place with regards to any discriminated act, it is necessary that we truly practice acceptance, because that is the only hope that we have to move closer to what we understand as an inclusive or equal or just world. So yes, I'm on board, but I really wish that we kind of evolve as human beings to get there. That's I think what I was trying to get across.
Thank you, ma'am. I think it all depends on the perspective of a person, and that is only going to change within time with the small steps we take. We'll now move on to our next question. Haneen, how can an individual play a part in the mission you are working for?
All right. So there are, a couple of ways. Primarily, since our project relies on funding because we facilitate, paying the school fees of the girls from the underprivileged society. What we try to do is we conduct fundraising drives and we get corporate sponsors. So we have a fundraiser up as of now. It's on Impact Guru. I think Disha can put the link in the chat, or there's any other way to do that. So one way is to donate to our fundraiser, and another one is to join us as a corporate mentor for a career program that we started to make underprivileged girls aware about job skills. We have a Google form on our website. It's on www.projectarambha.com. You can go there, you can fill the form, and you can join us as a corporate mentor. Those are two ways. I think Disha will have some other suggestions as well, if you'd like to add on.
So in case you have any advice or anything that you want to tell us, you can follow us on our social media. We have keep giving our updates over there. And in case you'd like to join us in any other form, then we're more than welcome to help, more than welcome to have volunteers come on board with Project Arambha. And I'm sure it'll be a great experience. And again, let's all spread the word of gender equality. And as we have been discussing over the past time, that let's start trying to accept people just the way they are. We need to start in our classrooms, in our homes, within our friend groups, to stop making those comments and start accepting people just the way they are, because honestly, we are the youngsters of the country and we need to make sure that we are not going to let this continue for the upcoming generation.
What about the members of Project Kaleidoscope?
Like Haneen and Disha said, for us as well, funding is a huge part of what we do, because with the whole COVID situation, people have decided that COVID is the most important problem. Of course, we do understand that COVID is prevalent right now, and it is affecting a lot of lives. But another thing that we understand is that when you stop funding things like Sense Kaleidoscope, you also are playing with this thing that the school might not exist by the time you decide to come back and continue funding them at some point. So the two things that we are doing is, one, raising funds individually, where people can come in and contribute from your own pocket. Another thing that we are very much working on is trying to get a sustainable source of funding for the school, because we need to make sure that since they are an NGO, we need to make sure that they have the funds to keep running, to keep providing for the students and for the teachers as well, because the teachers work tirelessly to make sure that the students have everything they need, they're in the right mental space, all of that comes with it. I think along with that, of course, what we've been saying all along, acceptance, equality, giving them the right chances in life, all of that comes along with it. And you can, of course, follow our social media pages. It's Project Kaleidoscope on Instagram. And we do not have a website as yet, but you can definitely check out Sense Kaleidoscope's website. They have a lot of the students' artworks there, a lot of things about what they do, how you can help, all of that. Ms. Akshay, if you want to add anything.
No, I think Sanjana has done a good job there. So I'll pass that, if that's okay.
Thank you so much. You can also put your social media handles in the chat box for everyone to view. Our next question is, do you all have any role models that inspire you? Disha, would you like to answer?
Well, before I answer that, can I please have my poll question and then I'll take it forward?
Okay, so this is our next poll question. Does Elon Musk have Asperger's syndrome? We'll wait for a few more seconds for the answers to come in.
Wow, the results have really surprised me, but the right answer is 41. There are 41 female CEOs in the Fortune 500 companies. And honestly, that's not something that we need to celebrate about, but I'm sure we're going to get there. We need more women in good positions, top positions in different corporates or across the world in different fields. So I take it from there that my role model has been my mother for forever that I can imagine. I knew the word role model. Her whole drive, her whole journey of education from where she came, how she considering all the obstacles and circumstances that she'd been through to be able to give me the life that I'm living today is honestly so inspirational, and I wish I could do that for somebody. um and have seen how her peers talk about her and how much she supports her peers, and I truly believe that women have to stand up for other women in order to make sure that we're all united and establish the equality that's missing. So she's been my biggest inspiration. She's always her whole vibe and our whole thrive to excel in anything that you're doing, regardless of all the opportunities that you have lost because from where you came. These are things that we tell our girls in our sessions, that regardless of where you have come from, what you are doing, and whatever your current circumstances are, you can excel, you can move out of the current circumstances. It is not essential that the current situation has to determine where you're going to be. So my mother has been like a driving force behind everything that I'm doing, and I don't think there's any other role model that I'd rather give that place to anyone else. Honey, I think she has a similar story.
Yeah, I'm going to do a copy paste on that one. No, so my role model is also my mother. And to give you a little brief on that, she comes from a small place in Kashmir, and she actually had big dreams, which nobody else in her, around her had. She wanted to travel the world, and she wanted to pursue all sorts of careers, which people which people didn't think of back then. So she's come a far, she's come a long way from there, traveled to whatever country she had on her list. And that's something I really admire about her, because she really fulfilled her dreams, and something, it's a good learning to take. And she's taught me to be calm and composed, be patient, deal with whatever problems that are pestering you in a very sensible way. So to have that patience is something that I've learned from her. And of course, finally, helping people, doing, whoever is vulnerable out there in whatever way you can, whether it's donating to a charity, whether it's lending your ear to someone who needs consoling. She's taught me all of that.
Those are lovely answers. And would Ms. Akshay and Sanjana also like to share their role models with us?
Sure. My role model is J. Krishnamurti for very obvious reasons, because I'm an educator and his philosophies really, really appeal to me. A lot of my work, you will see the influences of Krishnamurti's thoughts and practices. Now, while I have Krishnamurti as my role model, it will be wrong of me to not mention my consistent source of strength, the ones who give me the strength to keep going and with a vigor that is unbeatable. And these are my kids, the children with autism that I work with on a day-on-day basis. I call them my superheroes. I've done a lot of sessions where I've started getting them to talk about it and say that, okay, autism is my superpower. I say this because despite all the cruel stigmas, the misconceived perceptions, and most importantly, the huge sense of despair and abandonment that they carry from within because they are not good enough, even for their parents, they can't get married, they cannot control their emotions, and they have many, many canards that would seem like an endless list. The only thing that they embrace me with is love, loyalty, and a sense of intense hope, which I think never, never goes away. And that will with a big, big smile for a very long time until, I guess, forever, because they just don't believe in giving up. And I think that is why I would say they share the same space as Krishnamurti for me.
When it comes to role models, I have one too many to go into all of them right now. But talking about ones on the spectrum, we have Greta Thunberg. Not sure if people know this, but she did get diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. And one of the things that she said really stuck with me. This was on one of her TEDx talks. I'm just going to read out the quote. She said, "I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, OCD, and selective mutism. That basically means I only speak when I think it's necessary." And that last statement is something that I feel like everyone needs to incorporate at some point or the other, because we're able to look over the fact that she's a girl, that she's barely 16, and still take her seriously. And now that she's come out and accepted the fact and told the world that she's actually on the spectrum, and people are still taking her seriously, taking what she's saying seriously, I think speaks a lot. I think this is something that would be common to both our causes, because we're able to some extent or the other, accept what she's saying, because we know that what she's talking about is very important. And I think when everyone starts talking only when it's necessary, that's when we can look over the trivial matters, like the fact that, I don't know, she's a girl, or this is what she's wearing, why is she doing it like this, or why is this person acting this way, and actually pay attention to what they're talking about or what they're doing, and consider how important it is, not just for us, but the whole world. That's when we'll be able to move forward. And I think that just makes her shine so much more in my eyes. That's about it.
Krish, you're on mute.
Thank you, Sanjana. When people ask us about our role models, we always have so much to talk about. And I agree with Haneen and Disha that our parents are kind of our role models, even though we don't talk about it, they are. We'll now move on to our next question. I would like all of y'all to share an inspiring story of a student who y'all have seen grown from the first time you started the project and now where the person is today. We can start with Haneen.
Okay, I'd like to bounce this one off to Disha because she's actually, prepared something in a very good format. Disha, take it away.
Okay, sure. So in our whole, in Project Arambha, we have 44 girls covered 44 girls covered for their education for 3 years. And about 14 of them come from an NGO called Sparsha Trust. It's a renowned NGO in Bangalore. So one of the girls' story that always Haneen and I love sharing with everybody, and we ourselves are very inspired by, is this girl coming from a town in Karnataka called Chikbalapur. It's close to Bangalore. It's a small town that she came from, and it's basically a village. And when she was 16 years old, she was forced to get married by her own mother. She lost her dad as well before, and due to financial constraints and no opportunity left, her own mother forced her to get married within the family. And she really wanted to study. She wanted to pursue her education. She wanted to continue her education because she knew she was good at it and this could take her out. But due to the pressure of her family, she had to run away from her village and come. She came to Bangalore with the help of a welfare committee in Bangalore. She was able to continue her education, and then she was then shifted to Sparsha Trust. And recently, she finished her 12th grade exams, and she ended up scoring a 90%, and she's now preparing to write the preparing for the civil services examination. And why I think, and for both Hanina and I, why she really stood out was that regardless of whatever she has gone through in her life, she never let that overshadow her present that is today. Every session that we spoke to her, or everything that we tried to communicate with all of the girls and her, she made sure that all those instances when I can't even imagine the kind of difficulty she would have gone through, running away from your village, from your mom. When I say my mom's my role model, I can't even imagine how difficult that would be. But even though she had gone through all of this, still and making sure that she's doing the right thing, getting the right things into her life, and making sure that her whole reason of running away from her village is fulfilled, then I think we were just so inspired by her. And I think we keep saying this story to a lot of people, that let's not make our past circumstances or present circumstances determine what we're going to be in the future.
Thank you. I think such stories make us realize that why we started the project, why we do a thing. It makes us more happier and encourages us to do even more better. Now, either Sanjana or Akshay, would you like to share a story of your student?
Yeah, I'll take that. But can you run my poll before this, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
So we have a poll question that says, who is more likely to have autism? And we have the answers coming in a few seconds.
Okay, I think I can see the answers, and that's excellent. I'm really happy because I know if I had asked this question at least 6 years or 7 years ago, I know this would not have been the answer. But great, thank you for that. Okay, I'll go with the question. I think the story that's closest to my heart is again like the girls pointed out of the student, and his name is Rohit. When I met him, he was 11, and today he's almost 20. When he was younger, then he had these really strong behaviors, and he would get really upset when somebody was crying, and he would say things like, if this person doesn't stop crying, I'm going to go pluck their eyes out. So you can imagine how much he was being bothered. And this was one of the biggest challenges that we had with him, because he would really get very, very aggressive within a matter of seconds. And I'm not even saying minutes, in a matter of seconds, you see him transform. Now, that is where we started with him. And over the years, I have worked with him. And there were a lot of things that actually opened up for us in the process. It started from him going through abuse, bullying episodes, being a misfit, and having to accept that he won't be able to do the things that he really wanted to do. Like, for example, he wanted to be a pilot, and then I had to sit down one day to explain to him why he couldn't be a pilot, because he was on the spectrum. There was another time when I was listening to this really heartbreaking story of how he was in his apartment and he was playing with the kids, and he was desperate to connect and make friends with them. And one of the boys turned around and said that, hey, listen, today this apartment has turned into this chocolate world that you have seen in Chota Bheem, and that's one of his favorite series. And in the process of that, this boy, very gullible, believes this whole idea that really everything is turned into chocolate, and he goes and bites a car. He eats mud, thinking that is made of chocolate. He drinks from the pool, thinking that it is blueberry juice. And while he's doing all of this, he obviously gets into trouble. It's a security guy who's coming and reprimanding him. The other folk in the apartment are really upset with him. And there was this other episode which we also took into an artwork process with the Karak Collective, where he talks about where younger children, even who were younger than him, at that time he was maybe 13 years old, so kids who were younger than him took him off the terrace and asked him to take off his pants. Now, there were all of these things that he had gone through. We obviously went through many, many hours of counseling, doing a lot of personalized work with him to get him beyond all this. And over a period of 4 years, he has stopped getting aggressive. Now, when somebody cries or now anything happens, then he just tends to walk away. There was a time when he was sitting in his room in the apartment, and if boys were playing downstairs, then he would continuously be in this room and scream like he wasn't able to talk the next day, and he would not be allowed outside because we were worried that if he goes outside, he's going to harm somebody. So these kind of stories are very, very common to autism in India. And when I was working with Rohit, I remember spending a lot of evenings chatting with him, bringing his mother in, and it took a lot of effort. We did behavior modification, we did counseling. We had a very, very supportive mother who worked with him, refusing to give up. And I'm really, really proud of what I see today. It really warms my heart. And today he's this boy who I think with a lot of work that has gone in has evolved to learn from his pain. Now, while because he has gone through those kind of experiences, and yes, pain is a very, very, very huge and great teacher. But what I'm really inspired by with Rohit is that he's not filled with hatred, he's not regretful, but he's actually this joyous soul who's always looking forward, and he tells everybody, "I want to be this really rich and famous artist one day, and I want to make a lot of money, and I want to be very comfortable." I think it's amazing to see him embrace all of this life that he has now with his wide arms, a huge smile, and a heart filled with hope and surrender to the universe. This, I believe, is why this story is so amazing and so inspiring for me.
These are lovely stories, and I'm pretty sure I must be so proud of your students.
Yes, I am. Yes,
coming so far. To end this round, I have one last question, and it's a rapid fire question, which is, what is the one goal you have for your organization that you want to achieve? First, we go to Haneen or Disha. Would you like to answer?
All right. Okay, so to start off with, before answering this question, I just like to congratulate the other team on what you guys are doing. It's really overwhelming, and I have a brother who has autism, and your story just really got to me. So, really great work. The goal of our organization is to educate 300 girls. We want to train 100 girls as part of the career. Okay, I'm going to cry. Maybe you just speak for me.
Okay, I'll take that. Again, like she said, I think it's super inspiring, and I wish we could be more, we could do something together for more. I mean, it's just a very inspiring story. Coming back to our goals for our project, we want to educate 300 girls as a part of our project and mentor them and make sure their future of all of these girls are secured, and advocate for our final cause of gender equality. That's been our aim since we started, and we hope that it's going to come true very soon.
I hope you do achieve your goal. What about the members of Project Kaleidoscope?
First off, I myself am a very big, I don't know if you want to call it a believer or whatnot, but of equality, all of that comes with equality. And your story, I mean, it would be the least to say that it's inspiring and touching to a very large extent. When it comes to Project Kaleidoscope, we have a very simple goal: engagement, empowerment, and visibility. That's what we're working on. And of course, along with that, we're working on making sure that Sense Kaleidoscope exists for as long as it can exist, for more than as long as it can exist if we can get to it. Make sure that they have a sustainable and very sure losing my words here, but source of funding, so that they don't have to stop. They're not forced into stopping all the work that they've been doing so far, all the work that I'm sure they'll continue to do. And also making sure that anyone on the spectrum, anyone even outside the spectrum, doesn't feel like they're left out just because people think that they're outside the so-called normal.
Thank you so much to all our speakers for answering all the questions. And I hope you'll achieve great progress in everything that you all are doing. We now move on to the audience questions. I request the audience to type down any questions that they have in the chat box, and I hand over the round to Udit. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Dia. Any questions from anyone? Please type them in the chat box. We have received one question. What unconventional learning methods are used by you given the challenges faced by people diagnosed with autism? Ms. Akshay, would you like to answer this?
Yeah, sure. Very simple, a model that is practiced actually globally, but not just in India. Number one, we have one teacher with a maximum of 3 students in the classroom. Number two, we use technology. We are very, very pro technology. So we have interactive boards in the classroom. All of our kids are working with gadgets like laptops and iPads and stuff like that. I think, yeah, these 2 things. And the third thing is that we have an autism specific curriculum. So those are really unconventional because they've all been designed bearing the needs of this mind.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I also have one more question. What do you see your organization progressing towards? And what are your long-term goals? I think this question has been repeated.
Sorry, this is for whom?
Miss Haneen, anyone, Sanjana, anyone who can answer it? Actually,
yeah. Okay, sorry, Haneen, were you saying something?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I think for IoT, the long-term goal is to set up an arts village or a community of artists and set that up as a community. That's our long-term goal. We are trying to answer the question, what after us? Because obviously there are kids and what happens to them after us? I mean, please.
Yeah.
All right. So our long-term goal is actually to educate, I think we dropped the number 300 before, so that's our long-term goal. But we're also aiming to spread, awareness among girls. We want them to awareness regarding what womankind is capable of. We try to even incorporate goal setting sessions as part of our career program to sort of make them think that you can dream big. So that's one of the major challenges we've actually had, is that girls, they pick careers which they think are okay-ish, or things that they can, probably, achieve with just a little bit of effort. So they don't, think outside the box. They don't dream big. So we want to try to incorporate that sense of, just being ambitious in them.
That's great. Disha or Sanjana, would you all like to add on to it?
I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So we've also got one more question. Sanjana, if you could answer this for us. What were the initial steps taken towards the establishment of your organization? And how did you come into contact with most of your students?
When we talk about students, I'm not sure if you mean from the school or for the team.
Take the team, because I'm guessing you must have interacted the most with the team itself. Yeah.
Unfortunately, not had a chance to interact with the students at the school a lot yet because of the whole COVID situation. When it comes to the creation of the team and Project Kaleidoscope itself, very honestly speaking, like I said, we started in 2020. But because we weren't sure on what steps to take, how marketing works, how any of that works, we weren't as efficient as we should have been. However, we did revamp in April of 2021. And since then, we have, I think, made quite a lot of progress. We did launch the WhatsApp campaign where we raised, I think this was mentioned earlier, but we raised about 3.5 lakhs. And I think all of that, for the record, is going to the school. It's all going to the school for the infrastructure, for the teachers, all of that. I'm pretty sure Ms. Akshay can go into detail about where the money is going. But about the team itself, we started off as 6 people. How we made the connections between each other, I don't think there's much more to say than we all believed in working for the same cause and coming together and doing something more meaningful than just attending my online class at home and complaining about how annoying this whole platform is. And we have expanded the team very recently, and I'm sure we will go on to expand it more in the future. If to name the team members, if I must, and also because we couldn't have done it without the team that we have at the moment. So Sarah and Mahima were the ones who started the project itself. And then there is, of course, me. Then there is Sitara Chari, Augusta Vivek, and Veda Menon. That was our core team. We also have Akshat, Anvita, and Meda, who have joined us very recently. And we hope that we can keep working and make this place a better place for anyone on the spectrum. And like Ms. Akshay said, we're working on building an online community. So anything anyone thinks will help us with that, any connections that you can help us with, will be very grateful. So I think both of us can put in our social media handles as well, so that anyone who wants to get in touch with us can do so.
That's really commendable. And I hope you continue to succeed. All of you all. You all have been doing such a good thing for so long. Ms. Akshay, would you like to add on to how you came across the students and what initial steps did you take?
Very simple. I had just come back from Scotland because my training is from there, and I just happened to meet these kids in the special schools because I was walking into different special schools in Bangalore to see what was happening with autism in India. I wasn't very aware, and I was away for quite some time. I was away for almost a decade. So that's where I started interacting and decided to set up a space because I realized that there is a huge gap. The kind of work that needs to be done with autism, or what I saw happening in Scotland, it's something that needs to be practiced here as well, but it was not happening. So the initial step was essentially to open up a space.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I believe this was the last question. And once again, thank you so much, all of you all, for doing such a great thing. And we're so glad that you all could come here and be on this platform. Now, I would like to request Naisha to give us the vote of.
Our 4 speakers today showed us what taking a stand for a particular cause means and how one can contribute if they have the willingness to do so. Making education accessible to all is not going to be attained very easily, but these small steps initiated by the youth of our country is the ray of positivity that fuels our hope. I want to thank the President of Gujarat Research Society, our respected Principal, Mrs. Damayanti Bhattacharya, our Vice Principal, Mrs. Geeta Sanil, the school management, teachers, and the audience for being a part of the session today. We would also like to extend our gratitude towards Mrs. Shilpa Gandhi, ISC Coordinator, and Ms. Abir Premji, Head of the Mass Media team, for their effective guidance and efforts. We would like to thank all our listeners for taking out their valuable time. The second season of Junoon JML promises to be filled with exciting new topics, and we hope you join us for our next session.
Great. That was a great session and such valuable sharing. I must thank all our 4 speakers for, of course, sparing your time and coming and speaking to us, but also for the wonderful work. I mean, it's truly very, very inspiring, and especially in areas where, is something where the focus, like you said, it doesn't go over there. So thereby it is, it's really, really very heartening to know this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I hope the experience was equally valuable for you all.
It was. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and we're
Not
so
at all.
grateful to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shweta.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Requesting the Junoon team to stay back, please.
Yes.
Are we all of us?
Miss
Just us?
Nirvan was kept in the waiting room by mistake. Just a minute.
Okay. Just bring him back.
Yeah, I just.
He left.
Uh-huh.
No, Uditi actually has very bad Wi-Fi. I don't know
Today?
if she-
Sorry?
I'll just admit her again. She's also.
Oops. Sorry.
Miss, can you just give me 1 minute?
Yeah, take your time. I'm also on a different on the iPad and it's not. Skips file. So Abhi, Miss, should we guys, should we do a debrief right away or should we do it on another day?
No, Miss, can we schedule it for another day?
Okay, all right. Okay. So we just schedule that right now, and then we can just for the juniors also they'll come to know what it is. So very quickly, can I have everyone's videos on for a bit? Just, yes, thank you. Uditi is here. Okay, Nirvan is here. Yes, Hiren. What happened?
What happened was that I was speaking, and then I don't know, some live meeting thing came, and I remember that I pressed that I want to be in the meeting. I don't know how I left. Then Patel took over.
Okay, no, we'll discuss all this when we have a